I don't know what I've taken on here, but anyway. Shake, rattle and roll. Quite often, when titles come, as those of you who speak from the platforms know, you get a title, but nothing comes with it. But in the week or so leading up to it, you should certainly experience that title. This week, it's been Shake, Rattle and Roll. It's not going to be what you think it is. It's not about a hit song from the 50s. Because we hear that term many, many times. We hear movers and shakers. We read about people in the newspaper that move and shake, get things done on a community level, whereas before they'd just drift along. But someone comes in and makes a difference. Now here's a scary one, moving and shaking. There'll be lots of it involved here. If I ever hear this term again, I think I'll retire. Dance as if no one is watching. Who is ever going to do that? Is anyone here? Sheila, would you like to give us an example?
No, because you'd be watching.
Oh, we have some bright sparks here. But how would you dance if no one was watching? Would anyone like to show us? There you go. Go on. Do it again.
You weren't watching.
But do we dance as if no one's watching? Where would you dance if no one's watching?
In your bedroom.
Where? At home? In the shower?
Bathroom.
No.
The bathroom, John?
Shower's too small, not enough room.
Out in the garden here.
Well, I really should play that song again later and see how you dance to it. We'll be talking about the shakers in just a moment. But also, in a way, this is related to the fifth unity principle. I'm being very clever here about this. And we hear a song saying, when you pray, move your feet. But I'll link that in with when the disciples asked Jesus, what is the sign of the Spirit in action? And he said, it's a movement and a rest. And of course, as humans, we can only move so much before we get tired and we need sleep. And in that sleep time, that's when we connect with Spirit. The test comes during the day when we try and put Spirit into action. Not necessarily here on a Sunday, but in the cathedral of daily life, I think I heard someone say, is where you put your spiritual principles into action. God works through us. That's why we have to move and shake. And God has lots of good things for us. God works through us, and we have to have the balance so that we can be fit and ready for it. And when you look at our body, we're all connected. I've mentioned this before, Rumi, the Sufi poet, who said that we are all one. And when you think about it, our bones are the rocks. Our flesh is grass. I think it was Shakespeare that said, all flesh is grass as well. And also our blood is made from the elements of water. So we're all connected. Our bodies are the same things made up of all creation. Now, a little bit of academia here. In studying music history, we learn that musical instruments throughout the millennia are similar to us. But I believe we are the ultimate instrument. Now, if you have a look at this slide coming up here, first year of music history at the conservatorium, we have to go through this stuff. First of all, there are 4 basic instruments. The aerophones, which need air, and that's the trumpet, and you can think of many more. What else needs air? A flute, yes. Oh, great. Yes, you would have passed the exam. Now, membraphones are things that are struck. Chordophones are scraped. Violinists don't like that. And idiophones are shook or shaken. So which one of these are you? Are you an idiophone? No one will ever admit to that. A chordophone where you're scraped, a membraphone where you're struck, or you need air. We're a combination of them all, really. And there are some instruments that you think, no, that's not a percussion instrument. And pianists don't like to say this, but the piano is actually a percussion instrument. So is the gentle harp. And when you sit down and play, you learn that I'm striking a note. But we're taught to make it so that it doesn't sound as if we're striking. There's a lot involved in that. And the great classical pianists can play something, and you like sonata and other things we've probably never heard of, but they just make them drift in air. And same with the harp. The angelic harp is a struck instrument. And the violin, to think it's scraped, well, look at the sound that comes from being scraped. It's amazing. So they're the four basic instruments. Now in primitive times, the witch doctor or shaman used the basic technology of the time, which was drums and rattles. And they, of course, singing and dancing, and with that they tried to induce some form of trance state. And from that, I'm sure the people that wanted healing were very impressed with this. And they had visions where they dream of things that came up from spirit. Okay, you might need that herb, whatever. So this went on and on evolving. So from the primitive shamans and those early instruments, we have our sophisticated symphony orchestra, which is just amazing. I'm not talking about digital instruments here. I think that's another area which I'm not familiar with. But of course, as dance progressed, we had sacred dancing in the temple, the Hindu dancing, and we read in the Bible of Salome dancing in front of King Herod, and Tibetan dancing, the swirling Sufis, they're all there. Now, let me introduce the Shakers. There they are. Now, a unique group of people. Stop laughing, Beverly. Imagine us doing that in the service. I can. They were a breakaway group from the Quakers. Now, this is before that amazing time of spiritualism, theosophy, new thought. But this was the 18th century, just before. Now, they broke away and they formed their own community in a very, very primitive part of the United States, very pure land. And one day at their service, their leader, Mother Ann, was there, and she got them all together, and all of a sudden, they all stood up and did this group dance. And someone said, oh, this is very Indian. And they believed that they were capturing the spirits of the Indian people that used to live around that area. This went on for about 8 months or so, then it stopped. But in the meantime, they had these dances, and to me they looked fantastic. I didn't have a chance to put one up on screen, but I do have some recordings of their music, and it's amazing. Not only did they dance, they spoke in tongues and all that sort of thing. And that was just before the advent of, as we said before, the New Thought movement, the other groups that were there, Theosophy, and then Spiritualism. So there you go. When you pray, move your feet. And on the other side of the world, in Hawaii, the kahunas knew that too. They danced, but they knew the value of breath. As a matter of fact, when the first Christian ministries, or what do you call missionaries, went to Hawaii, the kahunas and the locals were amazed. People would sit like we did, and they'd pray. And they couldn't understand why their prayers didn't seem to work, whereas they used to embrace nature and embrace the air, fill their bodies with wonderful air, and there was a technique to it which some people claim that they do know, but I wonder. Okay, it would be interesting if we included dancing in our sanctuary here. Now, I've tried this myself. I really think about it and I think, well, should I have continued? We had the Dances of Universal Peace in this room when Gloria and Jeff were here. And we did it for about 4 weeks. Bob was here and a couple of others were here, and I was exhausted. It only went for about 8 weeks. I should have continued because I felt something in it. It was just good to move. And Gloria was very good at that. So much so, most of us had to sit down because it was just so energetic. But had we been doing it on a regular basis, it would have released a lot of tension in the body and given us something to cling to with our thoughts, solidify our thoughts a little bit. It was a good time. Now, there are times when we need to be shaped, rattled and rolled. And one of those times is when we have an aha moment or a new truth tries to get into our subconscious part of our mind, and King Pharaoh won't let it go, and we have tension, trauma, and we feel terrible. Usually feel it in the solar plexus, sometimes in the head, our eyes get tired. But eventually, there comes a point when you can't put up with it any longer. In the Bible, Jesus said, "Not my will but thine." Someone will say, "Okay, here we go, we surrender." Surrender to what? I don't care, but just get me out of this situation because I'd rather not be alive. Now, I think that wakes the solar plexus up because it wouldn't have anywhere to play. So you have to be very, very strong. Get out. So usually you can't, but when you surrender, things start moving. You've made a decision. Some people, when they surrender, think, "Oh, it's going to be blissful and beautiful and lights will shine and I'll be at peace." But usually it's the reverse. It gets worse till it gets better. We've spoken about this from the platform here. Things usually get worse before they get better. And as Grace said, you can look back after it and all of a sudden say, what is the gift? And you think, that truth has become a part of me. In Sunday school, we came across a verse, and it's from Proverbs 3:8, the most oddest verse, and there are a few there which cheeky students like mine used to quote all the time. "It shall be health to thy navel and peace to thy bones." Navel, of course, the solar plexus. We know what it's like when it plays up. So what shall be health to thy navel and peace to thy bones? When we take dominion and say, "I am at peace." Not that simple, but there is a technique to do it. Why couldn't they have written that out originally like that so we all knew what it was about? But that's the blessing of the teachings here, the metaphysical teachings in the Bible dictionary up there, our teachers here, and you'll find that there are other things that come alive in the Bible once they're explained to you metaphysically. A bit more of this, Matthew 8. Jesus and the disciples sailing on the Sea of Galilee. "And behold, there arose a great tempest in the sea, insomuch as the ship was covered in waves, but he was asleep. And his disciples came to him awake and saying, Lord, save us, for we perish. And he said unto them, Why ye of fearful, O ye of little faith? Then he arose and rebuked the winds and the sea, and there was great calm." Now we have a slide for this. Some basic metaphysics for us from the Metaphysical Bible Dictionary. The sea signifies the universal mind as that great realm of unexpressed thoughts and ideas that contain all potentialities. Galilee, Greek from Hebrew, means rolling, turning, rolling energy, metaphysically meaning the energy of life, activity, power, force, energy acting in conjunction with substance. Isn't that amazing? That story is about us. He was asleep. Our I am presence was always there watching over. Here we are in our daily lives on this journey where we're up and down. We cry out. We've got nothing else to do but listen. O ye of little faith? Well, I can understand that. Now, it's been proven that our thoughts have effects on our body. Judgment, emotional wounds, fear and loss become stored deep inside our muscles and bones. Don't we know it? When we move our bodies, we shake up firmly rooted systems of thought, old patterns of behaviour and emotional responses that don't work anymore. Rhythm, breath and movement. These become the tools for seeing and freeing the habits that hold us back. We can then, in the words of our latest High Priestess of Song, Taylor Swift, shake it off. I didn't play that today because it's copyright, but it's a wonderful DVD. If you want to become young at heart, have a look at Taylor Swift singing Shake It Off. I first heard it, I don't normally listen to those radio stations, but driving to the bush sometimes you can only listen to what you get. And I think it was Ballarat FM or something. I was driving over the Pentland Hills thinking, oh, this music was terrible. And all of a sudden, these two girls that were the announcers, by the time they got through their diatribe, they put Taylor Swift on. And I thought, my God, the words of this. It was amazing. Then I rushed home and put the iPhone on and looked up the clip. Technology, the youth, the message, the energy. It's there. It's out. Jesus said, preach my gospel to the world. Well, it's happening. Probably not in the ways us old Sunday school people thought, but it is happening in the most wonderful, wonderful way. And we are part of that too. We've still got ways to go. And this place here is the way shower for a lot of people coming up very soon. Now, we are all musical instruments. Well, before I get to that, can I just show you the next slide, which has got some of the things we know that this is out in public. Look at the things that are available. These are just a few. That's Gabrielle Roth, who we had the quote from, Leslie. She was called the Urban Shaman in the 90s, going back a few years, and she had drum music. And I used to dance like no one was watching. And it's wonderful stuff. You know, all the drums, we have drumming circles now. That's where it all came from. And she was an amazing woman. She passed away just recently, unfortunately. Now, here's one for anyone interested. Belly dancing for beginners. No takers there? Dance, the sacred art. The joy of movement as a spiritual practice. Circle dancing. Now, here's an important one. Running, the spiritual path by Roger Johnson. That man is a priest, and he's replaced balancing out his meditation with running. He uses the techniques he uses for running, for meditation, for his running, concentrating on the breath and movement, and he reaches some wonderful states of peace when he does it. But in our quest for balance, sometimes it's like running out of time, because when we're young, our body seems to be balanced. We don't look after it, but we can wake up the next day and just carry on regardless. But then all of a sudden, something happens. You think, oops, I need that extra hour before I get up. And we start slowing down. Then as we get older, we find that we need to move. We found when we were young, we didn't quite have the wisdom we had. But as we get older, we do get wisdom. But you think, I've only got this X amount of years, why can't they all come together now? What is it? Youth is wasted on the young. So this is our moment in time to be aware and balance body, mind and spirit. So we can, if we want to, take up some of those Egyptian things. I think the latest thing, never thought I'd live to see the day, but pole dancing has become a way of becoming fit and probably making a bit of extra money. But as we get older, ballroom dancing is an option. Now, when we get older, there's some exquisite dancing. And because, Jeanette, you're going into hospital, I didn't ask you and Jim to do the tango today. But would you? Not today, but sometime. Sometime. No, because you danced here before. It was wonderful. It was like Tai Chi. And you teach ballroom dancing. And isn't that a wonderful way of balancing out body, mind and spirit?
Ballroom dancing actually has been demonstrated to be the most valuable exercise for keeping the aging process from.
Well, I'll sign up. Very good. But we haven't forgotten the tango. Okay, imagine during the service if we decided to not just sing, but dance to it. I wonder what would happen. I'm going to play that Shaker song again. It's here somewhere. Gift to be simple. It's a pretty easy song, number 338. Now, you may not get up or you may, but how would you dance to this? Was that filmed? I think we might need a release form for that one. Very good. I'm very proud of you. Give yourselves a round of applause. Oh, how do you feel?
Good.
Okay. Back to basics. Now, what happened then happened to me. I went to a man who was called Leonard Jacobson. He was probably one of Australia's first mystics in the 90s, after Ainsley Mears, of course. There's a little place down here on the Burwood Highway, and I signed up. I was a radio announcer at the time. I got him to come in and talk about his mindfulness, which was mindfulness before Eckhart Tolle kind of thing. And so I went to his seminar. We got a free seminar, and there were people. We had to sit in a circle, and there were people of all shapes and sizes. And Leonard gets up there, and we're all sitting going, wondering what was going to happen next. And the worst thing happened. He said, now, okay, get up, we're having free dancing. And he put, I think it was something like Carole King, it was pretty simple for the time, but I feel the earth move, that's right. And we all start off very slowly. And then you look, oh, that one's dancing better than me, and you start to get dancing. And surely we're all swinging around, laughing and carrying on, falling over each other. And then the music stops and we're sitting in the circle, and that got rid of that rubbish. We all started to speak. It was great. Leonard didn't have to say much, but he was able to draw the wisdom of the people out. What was their problems, what was going on, and someone else had an answer, someone else said this, and it was a great eye-opener for me. Now running, we talked about the priest that was running. He uses that as an alternative to sitting meditation. And of course we know swimming, cycling and all that. There's Tai Chi, and the favourite one of all, which a lot of people do, is Aikido in the martial arts. I'm not a great karate fan because that's dangerous, but Aikido was developed when the monks were travelling along the Silk Road, and they used to get picked on by beggars and goodness knows what, so they got sick of that. Someone devised these movements where if you put your hand out, you pull it, and they fall over. You use their own energy to disarm them. It's quite an art. All right, I think that was all the slides, but to sum up, isn't it incredible? This body, your body, our body, is the temple of the living God. So we use the term use it or lose it. We will eventually, but we can prolong it if we use wisdom. So it needs to be shaken, rattled and rolled, gently as we get older. And it can seem like a race against time, as I said. Now, a little bit of a quote from Gabrielle Ross here. We can gently shake, rattle and roll as we shed off layers of old thought patterns of behaviour and emotional responses before they work themselves out on our bodies as illness of some kind. End of quote. So, let's start dancing, singing and experiencing harmony so that this immaculate trinity of body, mind and spirit, and I'll add something to the quote, use it or lose it, shake it and wake it. Thank you.